Mr. Gohmert for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Attorney General Lynch. Appreciate your being here. I cannot let the statement of my colleague go unrebutted. To say the death of 5 police officers just happened and that we on this side of the aisle think that's not important is an outrage. It is simply an outrage. I won't say that actually if my colleague had his way, then everybody would be as disarmed in around the country as they are in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and we would be losing thousands more of precious black lives in America. But we're here in the wake of 5 police officers being killed, and that is a huge deal. And having spent much of my adult career working with law enforcement, it's a huge deal to me. And I know from the law enforcement officers I talk to, they want to make sure that others are not above the law. Now, Chairman Goodlatte had asked you about the recommendation, and you talked about the briefing team, and you said you saw no reason not to accept the recommendation of the team. How much time did you spend reading the recorded testimony of Hillary Clinton from that 3.5-hour interview?
Congressman, I'm not going to go into the particulars of my briefing, except to say that...
No, this is just your own personal work. Did you go through in detail all of the statements she made in that 3.5-hour interview?
Congressman, as I've indicated previously, my role that I had decided earlier was that I would be speaking and meeting with the team who had done that substantive in-depth work for over a year, that had worked on this matter, that had compared the facts and the evidence. Now, you've said that several times, Attorney General, and I don't have enough time to have you keep repeating that 4 more times. But when Chairman Goodlatte asked you about the statute and whether it includes the term gross negligence, you made an improper statement. You said discussion of the statute would require discussion of the facts. That's not true. You know, from my years of judging on the bench, your comment that discussion of the statute would require discussion of the facts, when he asked you about an element that's contained in the statute, Attorney General, that really sounds like an answer somebody would give who hadn't read the statute and was looking for a dodge to avoid talking about a statute with which they're not familiar. You are aware, and this doesn't require any discussion of any facts whatsoever, but you are aware that in 18 U.S.C. 793F, gross negligence is an element of the offense, are you not? Congressman, I refer you to my statement that you just commented on with respect to my answer to the chairman.
Okay, well, if you're not going to answer the question, I'm afraid you may be reinforcing it.
Question to me was the meaning of a phrase in the statute.
Now, you said there was no basis not to accept the recommendation of our team, but you've given no indication whatsoever that you did any independent reading of the evidence, of the statements. Was Hillary Clinton's statement even recorded?
Congressman, I'm not going to discuss the specifics of that. I believe the FBI has provided extraordinary clarity and insight into that.
Okay, well, if you're not going to answer the question, then let's move on. But I find it extraordinary that after a 3.5-hour interview, so quickly a recommendation is made. So there are inquiring minds that are very intelligent that have said, wow. It almost sounds like on that plane somebody said, look, if you just tell Hillary to come in, we're wrapping up, but we got to be able to say that we interviewed her. It won't be recorded, so she'll be good. It sounded like it was a check the box. You're familiar with Scooter Libby's case and Martha Stewart's case. I know it was well before you came to office, correct? You remember they were prosecuted for making a false statement when the FBI and the Justice Department couldn't make the case they started out. You remember that?
One in New York and I believe one here.
Right.
Here meaning DC,
and so that's a pretty common instrument to be used. If someone makes a statement somewhere inconsistent in what they tell the FBI, that itself becomes a matter of prosecution. And I am shocked I thought it would be weeks before an answer could be made, but it looks like to do a 3.5-hour interview, you haven't reviewed the facts, you reviewed the team recommendation, and I would just encourage you, Attorney General, your oath was not to follow the recommendation of some team. Your oath is your own responsibility to our Constitution and those that are working under you. My time's expired.
He just said this. Despite so many false statements and lies, total and complete vindication, and wow, Comey is a leaker. And that comes from Comey. Here to weigh in is Texas Congressman and member of the House Freedom Caucus, Congressman Louie Gohmert. Your reaction to the president's tweet, Congressman?
Well, it was an appropriate tweet, but I liked Ace of Spades' tweet yesterday. He said, Comey, Loretta Lynch told me to lie, and I didn't write that down, but I wrote down Trump stuff because I was afraid he might lie. I mean, the hypocrisy just knows no bounds. It's incredible. And for it to turn out that the guy that was head of the FBI while the Obama administration prosecuted more leakers than all the other administrations put together, and it turns out he was a leaker in chief.
Right.
It's pretty dramatic stuff that
right.
The head of the FBI, it really does appear he's been after Trump for a while now.
I'd be very curious to see what other stories that we could find that are linked to the FBI director. Yeah. After all, he admitted he went right to, used a surrogate to go right to the New York Times and not tell anybody else that he took memos. But Congressman, a couple other things. You believe that Republican leadership is letting the president down. In what respect?
Well, we were supposed to be in session today, and, you know, that helps change the message back to what we're doing. We passed a great bill yesterday that's going to save community banking and quit the bailout of the big banks too big to fail. But Tuesday, apparently, our leadership changed the week's scheduling and said, let's go dark on Friday. Which means the emphasis will not be on what we're doing good in Washington. We're basically leaving the president to dangle. I'm very concerned we're not being supportive enough to get the message out. Well, and here President Trump is, as Marco Rubio said, you know, as you were pointing out, you know, the only thing that didn't leak was the truth, that he was not under investigation.
I have 30 seconds left. James Comey said he was intimidated being in the Oval Office one-on-one with the president.
Oh my gosh.
How come the Freedom Caucus wasn't intimidated when the president was basically yelling at them to pass health care? How come you guys weren't intimidated when you failed the first time?
Well, the fact is, James Comey, that was another example of him not being honest and truthful. Thank God Trump fired him. He needed to go. The more we find out, the more we know. This guy needed to go. He was a problem. He had no problem with Loretta Lynch telling him to lie, misrepresent the truth. But, oh, my goodness, let's do what we can to hurt Trump.
Congressman, I've got to have you back because you have a rich
God
legal background. Yeah, you have a rich legal background. I want to go into that to see where we go from here.
As a judge, Chief Justice, you bet.